it's up to him. He gave me that opportunity to fight him. It's only right that if that's what he want to do, I'll give it back to him. Outside of him, I was looking. What the latest is, we signed and contracted to do a rematch, and that's what it is right now.
Do you know when it's going to be, when we can hear?
I don't got no date right now, but I know that's the next fight that Terence.
The potential rematch between Terence Crawford and Errol Spence Jr. has been a hot topic in boxing ever since their first fight in 2023. In that bout, Crawford delivered a dominant performance, stopping Spence in the 9th round to become the undisputed welterweight champion. Fans and experts alike have been eager to see what's next for these two. Now, over a year later, the idea of a rematch is more exciting than ever, and this time, it could take place in a higher weight class. The anticipation grew even more after a tense face-off between the two, where Spence made it clear he's after revenge.
I haven't heard anything yet, and like I said before, it's in the contract, so it's not if I'm open to it or not. It's what's in the contract, and Errol gave me an opportunity and a shot at becoming the first male boxer, undisputed, in any division in the 4-belt era, and I honor that. And if he was to come to me or activate his...
The first fight between Crawford and Spence was everything fans had hoped for and more. Crawford, seen as the underdog going into the match, showed exactly why he's regarded as one of the best pound-for-pound fighters in the world. Spence, known for his toughness and determination, simply couldn't match Crawford's speed and versatility. Crawford's dominant win not only proved he was the best welterweight but also cemented his place as one of the greatest fighters of his generation. After the fight, the talk of a rematch was inevitable, especially with Spence refusing to accept the result. He firmly believes he can bounce back and prove himself in a second fight.
But you gonna knock my first?
Because I don't want to personally. We talking about what we want to see. I don't want to see it because I know what it's gonna look like. The same as it looked last time.
No, you don't.
Yes, I do.
Errol Spence wasn't the same.
What was wrong with him?
He looked slow. He looked he looked sluggish.
Why?
I can't tell you. I wasn't in camp.
At the division, he dominated for his entire career. All of a sudden, when it came time for this fight, he looked different. Why?
I wasn't in camp with him. I can't tell you. I don't know if his body finally broke down from being at 147.
For Spence, losing was tough to accept. He entered the first fight as the favorite, having ruled the welterweight division for years. Despite being in great shape and having powerful punches, he couldn't handle Crawford's skills. Some pointed to Spence's injuries leading up to the fight, including a torn retina and lingering effects from a 2019 car accident. While these didn't stop him from fighting, they clearly impacted his performance. Spence has since stated he wasn't at his best and has made the adjustments needed to be fully prepared for the rematch.
That's the fight I want to see. I want to see Bud be great, but what better buffer to see if Bud's ready at 68 than the EJ rematch of 54 and 60? And how exciting would it be to watch Errol Spence he walks at 190. I'm 185 pounds right now. I'm 5'11". To think of me cutting
Fast forward to 2025, and the highly anticipated rematch is almost here. But there's a twist. Crawford, who had bulked up in preparation for a potential fight with Canelo Alvarez, is now looking to move up in weight. This change adds a new layer of excitement to the rematch, as it could now take place in the junior middleweight division. Crawford's decision to move up isn't a huge surprise. He's always been disciplined about managing his weight, and at 35, he feels ready to challenge himself in a new weight class. Moving up to face Spence at 154 pounds, or in a higher weight class, could completely shift the fight's dynamics. For Spence, who naturally fights at a larger weight and is more comfortable there, this could give him an edge. But it also means Crawford could come into the fight with added power and even more experience, having faced bigger opponents in the past. This could make the rematch even more thrilling than expected.
Made concessions to get this fight done. He gave up a lot of money on his side to have this fight at 147. If you look at the contract, this is a sport of contracts. Chris, you know this. You have signed contracts. You have tried to get out of contracts. The winner gets to dictate the weight. The loser got to put the rematch clause or put the rematch.
One of the most exciting aspects of the rematch is the newfound confidence in both fighters. Spence, who's always been known for his relentless style, has admitted that he wasn't fully prepared for the challenges Crawford brought in their first fight. Now, he's been working hard on refining his technique, improving his conditioning, and sharpening his overall game plan. He's determined not to repeat the mistakes he made before. This gives the rematch a fresh edge, with Spence coming in more prepared than ever.
I feel as if, he would go back to the drawing board. He would come back stronger. He'll come back more hungrier, and he'll try to fix the things that he needed to fix to make the fight look different in the second time than in the first time. I do believe that, but that's the only thing that I can actually accept.
Spence knows he has the power to hurt anyone in the division, but he also understands that Crawford's boxing IQ is on a whole other level. To stand a chance in the rematch, Spence is putting extra focus on improving his defense and preparing to handle Crawford's precise counterpunching. His confidence is high, and he's fully convinced that if he sticks to his game plan, he can beat Crawford this time around.
For Spence, yo. I'm excited for this, man. It gives him a chance to heal up. Yo, and a hill Errol Spence is a problem for anybody.
On the other hand, Crawford is no stranger to confidence. After all, he's the one who proved himself in the first fight. For him, the rematch isn't about proving anything to the world, it's about continuing to build his legacy. Crawford is known for his calm demeanor in the ring and his ability to think several moves ahead of his opponents. He doesn't let victories get to his head. Instead, he's always looking for ways to improve, and he knows that beating Spence again would take him to an even higher level, just like Canelo. What's particularly interesting is how moving up in weight will impact his performance. There's a risk that the extra weight could slow him down, but given his careful approach to training and his focus on finding the right balance of strength and speed, it's hard to imagine Crawford not being fully prepared for whatever challenges lie ahead.
Now, there's a couple of reasons why Terence Crawford is doing this. Terence Crawford wants to go after Canelo or Charlo, because in reality, in his mind and in everybody else's mind, except Errol Spence and Errol Spence Jr. fans, he beat Errol Spence more than convincingly, which is, there's no need for rematches, there's no need for...
The rematch could bring an entirely different kind of fight. Crawford's first win over Spence came from his ability to outbox him, landing precise shots while controlling the pace of the fight. But now, with Crawford bulking up in preparation for a possible Canelo matchup, things could shift. Spence, who's used to fighting at a higher weight, is known for being more physically imposing at weights like 154 pounds. With extra muscle and bulk at junior middleweight, his power could play a much bigger role in the rematch. This change in dynamics could make for a more intense and unpredictable fight.
Has he exercised his immediate rematch clause?
I don't know if it's gonna be at 54 or 47, but I'm sure I'm sure he's probably gonna push the weight up, but there's no gonna be no change in the decision. The performance still is gonna be the same. Might be.
For Crawford, adapting his style to a new weight class will be crucial. Known for his fluidity and versatility, those strengths will help him continue to perform at a higher weight. However, he'll need to be even sharper and more defensive-minded, especially since Spence will be looking to use his strength to take control. The backdrop of this fight is also influenced by the shifting landscape of the welterweight division. As of 2025, the division is packed with talent, but it's clear that Crawford and Spence are still the top names. While new contenders are emerging, it's obvious that all eyes are still on these two fighters.
But right now, man, it's like a feeling that's kind of hard to explain. Being back on the U.S. soil and then coming in to some good wins. When I was over there, got some good wins before I left to go over there. I got the best win in probably history. So I'm gonna feel good, man. So the rematch is gonna happen. Mark my words.
Jaron "Boots" Ennis, with his raw talent, and Virgil Ortiz Jr., who's been a rising star for years, are both waiting for their shot. However, neither has faced a challenge like Crawford or Spence, and until they do, they'll remain in the shadow of the division's established elite. This is what makes the rematch between Crawford and Spence so crucial. It's the fight that will determine who truly rules the welterweight and junior middleweight divisions.
Offering Errol Spence the rematch, but at 147. Now, there's a couple of reasons why Terence Crawford is doing this. Terence Crawford.
There's also the broader impact of the growing influence of Saudi Arabia in boxing. Their investment in the sport has changed the way big fights are made and where they take place. While boxing has always had its share of money, the influx of funds has made it possible to turn events like this rematch into even bigger spectacles. Whether the fight takes place in the Middle East or another major location, the backing from these new sources of wealth is set to make the event even more massive. This rematch could easily become one of the biggest fights in recent memory, drawing fans from all over the world and reigniting a level of excitement in boxing that's been lacking for years.
Errol gave him the opportunity when he didn't have to. He sacrificed some things. So, you know, in my opinion, you know, you gotta just do what you gotta do. I think that 54 it's 7 pounds north, and it does make a difference. Errol Spence is an incredible fighter, and Crawford is too. If that's what Errol wants to do, to fight the rematch.
Everything is lining up for a massive rematch. Both fighters are highly motivated, confident, and hungry, whether it's for redemption or to continue building their legacies. Moving up in weight adds another exciting layer to this already captivating story. For Spence, it's a chance to leave his loss behind and prove he can still dominate the division. Crawford, on the other hand, has already accomplished so much in his career, becoming undisputed in 2 weight classes, capturing titles in multiple divisions, and maintaining an undefeated record. But as he enters the later stages of his career, criticism about his resume, particularly from fans and analysts, persists. It's something Crawford has learned to accept, but now, he's focused on charting his own path, no longer concerned with anyone else's opinions.
Man, I pretty much don't want to hear nothing about Terence Crawford and the word greatness after the news that just came out. Let me get this straight. You were the man that said, Earl, I gotta thank you. Earl say, why? Your response was, because this fight never would have happened if it wasn't for you. Now when it's your turn to do what Earl did for you, you playing boxing politics, talking about 147 or nothing. But you was the guy saying that it was hard for you to make it to 147, so yeah, you want to fight at 154.
When Crawford decided to move up to junior middleweight, many expected him to follow the same successful path he had in the past, dominate a new weight class, unify the belts, and solidify his status as the man to beat. That's been his career trajectory so far. At 135 pounds, he won the title but moved on before claiming undisputed status. At 140 pounds, he didn't just win titles, he dominated, becoming the undisputed champion in a division where no one could challenge him. Then at 147 pounds, he made history again by becoming undisputed at welterweight, defeating a tough opponent in Errol Spence Jr. in their highly anticipated 2023 Showdown.
Terence Crawford, we'll start here, reportedly offers Spence the rematch at 147 and not 154. This has got people up in arms because you have the Spence contingent who says, you know what, our guy Spence made concessions to have to get this fight done. He gave up a lot of money on his side to have this fight at 147. If you look at the contract, this is a sport of contracts. Chris, you know this.
After his recent success at welterweight, many believed Crawford's next move would be to try his hand at junior middleweight, capturing titles, unifying the division, and defending his legacy. With his skill, versatility, and impressive track record, it seemed like a natural progression for him to make a serious run at 154 pounds. However, Crawford's perspective was different from what many in the boxing world expected. When he made the jump to 154 pounds, fans thought he was gearing up for another undisputed run. But in a candid interview, Crawford made it clear that he wasn't planning to stay in the junior middleweight division for long.
You're a people's champ. Yes. I have nothing but respect for you. The question I have is, Errol alluded to wanting a rematch clause, but he asked, would you do it at 154? Is that your call, or is that the promoter's call? And would you even think about moving up to 154 to fight him?
Okay, so first of all, I need you to say I'm a loser.
Let's go! I'll never say that.
Crawford quickly dismissed the idea of unifying the 154-pound division, stating that it didn't offer the kind of legacy-building fights he was looking for. Not at all, he said when asked about the possibility of unifying at junior middleweight. He explained, there are a lot of great fighters, but not a lot of legacy fights at 154. If I beat Bakram, they're going to ask, who is Bakram? Fondora has already been knocked out. Crawford's comments might surprise some, especially considering the talent in the 154-pound division. Fighters like Jermall Charlo, Jaron "Boots" Ennis, and Brian Castano have all made their mark, and a fight with any of them would undoubtedly be a big event in boxing. But for Crawford, it's about finding challenges that will truly elevate his legacy.
So, along my career, I've been criticized and people have taken credit away from me just to try to diminish my accomplishments just off pure hate. So what would they be able to say with me going up 2 weight classes? If Canelo become undisputed again and I beat Canelo, what could they say? They'll say something, but
they're gonna find.
For Crawford, these matchups simply don't hold the same significance as other challenges he might face. While fighters like Bakram Murtazaliev or Sebastian Fundora could be worthy opponents, Crawford feels that the 154-pound division lacks the star power and narrative he's looking for to justify investing significant time there. The real reason behind his decision not to chase legacy fights at 154 pounds comes from his broader perspective on his career and the constant criticism he's faced. Despite being one of the most accomplished and skilled champions in boxing, Crawford has often been underappreciated and criticized throughout his journey.
I just wanted to prove to the world that I was better than what they say I was, because given the fact that how great I looked against each opponent, they say, oh, well, he wasn't nothing, or he was this, he was that, because how talented I am.
Right.
So they didn't want to give me no credit because I passed all my tests with flying colors.
Crawford has fought in a way that has made him one of the best in the sport, yet fans and analysts have consistently doubted him, questioning his opponents and criticizing the level of competition he's faced. No matter what he achieved, there was always someone ready to find a reason to undermine his accomplishments. In many ways, Crawford's frustration stems from this constant criticism, a feeling that, no matter what he does, he will never fully satisfy his detractors. However, his frustration isn't just about the criticism, it's about the legacy he wants to leave behind. Crawford is focused on creating a legacy that stands on its own, regardless of the outside noise.
My accomplishment just to boost him up. I'm like, dude, you're not gonna do that, because I can retire right now and be in the Hall of Fame. He couldn't. Everything that I've accomplished, he's still trying to accomplish. I don't want to sound like I'm hating on him. I honestly don't know if he make it to the Hall of Fame with the accolades that he did.
The welterweight division has been full of talent in recent years, and Crawford has proven over and over that he's the best in it. However, when it comes to the junior middleweight division, there's something that just doesn't excite him. While he would undoubtedly be a great fighter at 154 pounds, Crawford doesn't see it as the place to build the legacy he's aiming for. Some might argue that the challenges at 154 could have been the perfect test for him, but Crawford has set his sights higher. After weighing his options, he's made it clear that the only fight that truly excites him in the coming years is a challenge at 168 pounds against none other than Canelo Alvarez.
Canelo Alvarez thinks you're not a 54-pounder. In other words, you say, nah, he's too small.
That's his take. There's a reason why Israel was so respectful in the fight. Anytime I let my hands go, he either grab me or move. For the bigger guy, you should have been walking me down. You should have been bullying me. Canelo can say what he said.
He just doesn't feel like you're a 54-pounder.
The move to 168 pounds could be the fight that takes Crawford's legacy to a whole new level. Canelo, long considered one of the best pound-for-pound fighters in the world, presents a challenge that Crawford simply can't resist. For Crawford, this is the fight that could truly cement his legacy, a bout that would cap off his career with a victory over the most recognizable figure in boxing today. I don't see a lot of legacy fights at 154, Crawford told Cigar Talk. But when it comes to Canelo, that's the fight I want. That's the fight I've been wanting for a long time, and I'm going to make it happen. If I handle him, then that's how I'll solidify my legacy.
They talk all the crazy stuff about me going up and having a tough time, but he went up in weight and lost. That's the difference. I went up weight and won. He went up and lost. You know, so let's not do.
It's clear that Crawford has reached a point in his career where he no longer cares about pleasing critics. He's not chasing fights just to prove something to the naysayers or to appease anyone. Instead, he's focused on what truly matters to him, making the fights that will shape his legacy. Crawford is no longer motivated by the same things that drove him earlier in his career. It's not about collecting titles anymore. For him, it's about proving that he is the best, and that means facing Canelo in a fight that will challenge him and ultimately define his career.
There's no Triple G on Bud's resume. There's no Trout on Bud's resume. There's no Daniel Jacobs on Bud's resume. Canelo is the one that's fought the elite level opposition. It's Canelo that fought Laura. There is no Laura on Bud's resume. There is no Laura on Bud's resume. Bud has never faced a multiple division champ. Bud has never faced a multiple division champ.
Yeah, but Bud is an elite boxer.
So you're an elite boxer, but you haven't fought elite elite boxers.
When Crawford moves up to face Canelo at 168 pounds, it will be a huge risk. Canelo is a giant in boxing, and his experience at super middleweight, combined with his exceptional skill set, makes him a tough challenge for anyone. But this is the kind of challenge Crawford thrives on. It's the type of fight that could elevate him from being just another great fighter to a legendary figure in the sport. A win over Canelo would not only cement Crawford's legacy in boxing but also make him a household name in the wider sports world.
I was shocked at one thing, which has me questioning now the outcome of this fight. Terence "Bud" Crawford in person was absolutely taller, which we know, but looked like a bigger man. He looked at least 10 or 20 pounds heavier. His frame was bigger. He has his head, like his skeletal structure, like he looked like a bigger dude. And it really made me be like, well, isn't that Canelo's only advantage in this fight is his size?
But Crawford's decision to move up isn't just about money or glory. His entire career has been driven by a relentless desire to push himself to the limit, and facing Canelo is the ultimate test. At 168 pounds, Crawford will need to adjust his training, diet, and overall approach to compete at the highest level. However, Crawford, who has never shied away from any challenge, isn't intimidated by the size and strength advantage Canelo may have. For him, this is the kind of fight that defines champions, and he's ready to rise to the occasion.